Alright, so for this video, I wanted to talk about basically lukewarms and fence sitters in this matrix because in this matrix there are three kinds of people, right? Um, and sorry if this video is a little quiet, my family's sleeping, right? But the first kind of person is the tyrant, right? The person who imposes tyranny, right? The second person is the person who uh, so you have the first person creating tyranny, you have the second person who opposes tyranny, and then you have the third group, which is the majority of the population, which is the lukewarms, the fence sitters, the people who they don't have an opinion on anything. And if you've looked at my controlled opposition video, you will know that the fence sitters, the people who they don't really have an opinion on anything, and they don't really say anything meaningful because in order to increase their broad appeal, right? Those people are controlled opposition, but also the majority of the human population consists of this group of lukewarms, of fence sitters. And the reason why I think it's important to talk about this is because um, obviously, how is it that the few can control the many, right? How is it that the few can control the many? If it's just a few people, it's because the many don't oppose or resist. And this is why most of the human population consists of fence sitters, lukewarms, walking on eggshells. They don't want to offend anyone. They don't want to fight against the system. They don't want to offend the system, right? And the reason why people are this way, why most people they don't really have an opinion on anything, they're just normal people, right? Normal people living, trying to live their lives, right? Just doing nothing, right? And I'm not saying living a peaceful and quiet life is a bad thing at all. I'm just saying like that most people are so programmed by this matrix that they don't bother to question or call out the evil that exists in this world. And whenever that happens, that evil is permitted to exist in society. And yeah, and it reminds me of a saying of, they say a good man is a dangerous man, not a harmless man, right? And if you look at that, like there's a difference between being a good person, which you have the capacity to be dangerous, but it's under control, versus a harmless person. I think about like Jerry from like Rick and Morty, right? That kind of energy, no principles. Luke, like if you ask them their opinions on stuff, right? Because if you look at like the general theme of this matrix, this is a battle between good and evil, right? This is a battle between, it's like we fight against, powers and principalities, right? Stuff like that, right? And the lukewarms, the fence sitters, they don't really have an opinion on anything, and they don't want to offend anyone, right? Those people are the ones that I would argue are sort of accessories to the crime of a lot of the stuff that happens in this matrix. The people who look the other way and don't say anything because they don't want to be offended, or not that they don't want to be offended, they don't want to offend anyone, right? And this is one of the things that bothers me about, like I said in my controlled opposition video, about lukewarm people who, like there's certain subjects that they won't talk about because, and this is related to another video I did, which is that truth telling makes you unpopular for a reason, because this system is built on lies. So if you call out the lies, you call out the system, and the system opposes you, and the system programs the people to oppose you, right? So the less lukewarm you are, like the more you stand for good and against evil, the more you stand against the the more of a good person you are, the more of a principled person you are, the more polarizing you are if you talk about stuff. I mean, and if you talk, and the more you talk about the truth, the more you talk about polarizing subjects that the controlled opposition doesn't want to talk about, subjects that offend lots of people. Because when I say lots of people, yet again, the majority of the people are the lukewarms. They don't want to talk about anything. They don't want to like offend anyone. They don't want to have an opinion on anything. They just want to, browse TikTok and go to work and do whatever, right? And an example of like all of these sort of lukewarm subjects. Like think about like the Talmud, think about satanic ritual abuse, think about the Draco reptilians, think about the reincarnation trap, think about um, like the government involvement in human trafficking, like secret government projects, right? Like why does the system attack whistleblowers, right? People who call out the truth, because truth makes you truth telling is polarizing. Truth telling is going to get you funny looks. It'll get you opposition by the system, right? And this is why most people are lukewarm, because they're too afraid to even ask the question of, is this true or not? Or could this be a conspiracy, because it offends the majority, and so they go with the majority, and only dead fish go with the flow, right? And so I just really wanted to sort of make a video about that, because I do notice that that it's really important to not be a lukewarm or a fence sitter in this matrix, and that you call things out even if it offends people, and I mean, like, don't cast your pearls before swine, right? I mean, there's just some people, like, you can tell they're NPCs, or you can tell that that it's not worth arguing with them, because they're so programmed by the system that they will fight to protect it, right? I mean, it's like what Morpheus says in the Matrix, right? They're so dependent on the system that they'll fight to protect it, right? But it is important that that you have a hill to die on, so to speak. That it's important that you have a hill to die on. That this is the hill I'm going to die on, right? And you need to find that hill, whatever it is, that hill you're going to die on, no matter what, because the more of a lukewarm you are, the more of a fence sitter you are, the less principles you have, and the less of a good person you are. By definition, if you sit on the fence, and if you're a lukewarm person, you cannot be a good person, because good people are polarizing. There's good and evil. That's a polarity. And so if you stand for good, you stand against evil. And there's certain things that you're going to die for. There's certain things that you're not going to yield. There's the hills that you're going to die on, because you're not a lukewarm if you're a good person. So you cannot be a good person and a lukewarm person at the same time. That's not how it works. And speaking of controlled opposition, yet again, a lot of controlled opposition. Think about like Joe Rogan. Think about Joe Rogan specifically, but like a lot of like the mainstream personalities, that like the Dave Chappelle's, the is it Bill Hicks? No, it's like some other guy, Bill Burr, right? If you think, I mean, Alex Jones is sort of polarizing, but he's controlled opposition. Think about like Trump and all these other people. Like what they'll do is they'll say stuff that is offensive to like the leftists or whatever, but it's crumbs swept off the plate. Like they'll say like the most basic stuff, and yet and the people will clap like seals for them. But in general, and this is one of the things that pisses me off about Joe Rogan, like I've said in other videos, is that he is a lukewarm. He does not want to um offend anyone. He doesn't have polarizing opinions. He's a I don't want to say he's a yes man, but oh my gosh, what is it called? Like, because I know there's a term for what I'm trying to say. There's a term for what I'm trying to describe. The um vanilla flavored person. It's what he is. It's what all these controlled opposition agents are. They have opinions that are way too mainstream. All of their opinions are safe. They generally agree with what everyone else agrees with, right? And those types of people, you have to be very, very careful, because those are the lukewarms. Those are the fence sitters. They agree with everyone else. They go with the flow, and they don't offend anyone. And that's by design. It's a survival mechanism. These people are deceivers. They are chameleons, because they try to blend in. They don't want to stand out. But fighting against evil in this world means that you stand out, right? It means that um it means you don't go with the flow. It means you're not uh safe among the crowd, because you're going against the crowd, right? So I just really wanted to sort of make a video about this, just emphasizing the importance of not being a lukewarm, not being someone who is a fence sitter, not and having a hill to die on, so to speak, is very, very important. That the fact that you have principles, the fact that you're not just agreeing with what everyone else agrees with to maintain your popularity or maintain your career or maintain your podcast or maintain your stock options. I think about like Elon Musk is another guy. I mean, people are seeing him for who he really is now, but people like that, they have general they have like generally safe, generally mainstream opinions about everything because they're lukewarms. They don't stand for anything, right? And it reminds me of this saying by Malcolm X, right? Like a person who like a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything, right? And so if you are a lukewarm, if you're a fence sitter, then you stand for nothing by definition, because you're not a good person if you're a lukewarm, right? By that, if you don't have hills that you'll die on, if you're just like, oh, okay, okay, if you're a coward, right? Because that's what lukewarms and fence sitters are, is that they are cowardly people, because they won't say anything. They'll stay quiet, right? And it's the quiet people that allow the tyranny to happen, right? Because yet again, the tyrants, only a small group of people that allow all this to happen, or only a small group of people that want all this to happen, but it's the quiet people, the people who say nothing, that allow it to happen, right? And so it's really important that you have a hill to die on. It's really important that you have principles, and if you don't have principles, find them. That it's important that you have a hill to die on, right? Like this is the hill that I'm going to die on. I'm going to die for what I stand for, right? That's really really important that you have that, so you don't, so that you're not a person who stands for nothing and falls for everything all the bullshit the system feeds you because you don't want to offend anyone, right? You don't want to ask the question. You don't want to go into the uncomfortable topics, right? That's bullshit. You can't have that, right? And I guess also this video is sort of a general warning to be on the lookout for lukewarms as well. Not only not to be a lukewarm, but to also look out for lukewarm fence sitting people in this matrix, and to realize that these people are deceivers, these people are cowards, right? And that's one of the big things about controlled opposition is they're fence sitters, right? The people who are, super mainstream, all of their opinions are safe. They'll never talk about anything real of any substance, nothing really dangerous, nothing really you know nothing that pokes at the system too much, right? Think about like Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo. Think about Eddie Bravo talking about Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell's quote unquote suicides, right? And how they were, going to come out about child trafficking, right? Eddie Bravo talks about that. Joe Rogan tries to shut it down real quick, right? Lukewarm, coward, can't be that, right? And you have to be on the lookout for those people, because if you look around and you're standing next to the lukewarms, that means you're in the wrong spot, right? If you're looking around and the group that you are with are full of lukewarms, they're full of people without principle, they'll drop you at the drop of a hat. They are not like all the stuff that means something: loyalty, principles, a sense of good and evil, a sense of justice, wisdom. All of these people who are lukewarms, who are fence sitters, they will go through life and they don't want to offend anyone. They don't want to have any opinions about anything. They don't have opinions on anything. That's okay. All of those people, right? You need to avoid them like the plague, because like those people will drop. Like they don't have any of that. The people who don't have any of the stuff that matters in the human soul, right? And they've sold their soul for safety. They just don't know it, right? Be careful with the lukewarms. That's the video.